Welcome to Your Ink Story, a podcast exploring what humans have in common through the stories behind the body art folks wear. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, and I hope these ink-spirational short stories, sharing the heart behind tattoos, fascinate you and leave you feeling more meaningfully connected to humanity. This is Season 1, Episode 25, and we're chatting with Raja Mawad, a successful entrepreneur who shares his remarkable ink stories, from knuckle tattoos, tribal tatau tattoos using whale bones as needles, a pointillism tattoo in his ear, to his full-body legacy, including a teardrop-sized tattoo shaped as the state of Texas at the corner of his eye. Through his captivating stories, we learn how Raja found a way to overcome insecurities and align with his true self. An inspiring reminder that every journey, no matter how painful, can lead to deeper self-awareness and growth. Welcome to Your Ink Story, Raja. I'm so delighted you're here to share your ink story. How are you today?
Ande, I can't complain. I'm in the great state of Washington, Seattle, Washington. It's actually sunny out in the 30s, so I'm pretty excited about all of it.
And please let listeners know how you glow in the world. What are you up to? What's making your heart sing?
So interesting. You know, it's so apropos that I'm here. I started in traditional finance world, started at Goldman and banking side, and then I burned the ships. And the first thing I did was get knuckle tattoos when I quit. So I could never have a corporate job again. I started my own hedge fund. I grew that to about $1.2 billion over 12 years, had an exit in 15, became a father. Moved to Seattle, Washington about 5-6 years ago now. My passion for health and wellness. I played collegiate football and professional for a bit. Health and wellness was kind of my passion. So I decided to kind of merge both sides of the coin of IB finance and health and wellness. So the direct to consumer SaaS solution is what I built now.
I love that. And listeners, I will have the links to Raja's new passion in the comments and to the show notes. One of the great things when you look at Raja's guest page is he talks about how he climbed the ladder of success only to realize he had placed it on the wrong wall. That is something that happens to so many of us, right, at our journeys in life. But let's talk about, because I think you hinted just a little in your opening there, what originally inspired you to wear body art?
I think it just stems from some really, really deep insecurities that came from, let's just say, daddy issues or whatnot. I'm the youngest of five physicians in my family. So mom, dad, sister, brother, all physicians. Typical immigrant story. And so I had to follow the path of the family business. I quit medical school and because it wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I went into finance, had the snub nose. And I said to myself, I watched my mom, I watched my dad, I watched my sister and my brother. And they slowly just started atrophying here and here. And I didn't have the passion, Ande. So I thought, okay, that's okay. So I'm going to take a step outside the box. So when I quit, left medical school and went to Goldman Sachs Center in Houston, Texas, and UBS, and both in big banks. And honestly, Ande, I said to myself, I just can't do this. I can't jump when people say to jump and not know where I'm going to land. So I left. I had a passion for what I wanted to do from day one. I was 14. I knew I wanted to go in economics and hedge fund. And so I said to myself, one of the best conquistadors saying, burn the ships.
Right.
So I burned the ships. First thing I did was get knuckle tattoos.
And what does that say? And listeners, Raja's pointing his knuckles at me. It says, ride fast. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Now, everybody, and those of you who are tattoo curious, this is one of the most painful places to get a tattoo is when you go onto the digits of the fingers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how was that? And how did you figure out that those were the words that you wanted to go on, those letters and that saying?
Ande, I don't know how filtered this gets. I was emotionally dead, for a better word, just to be completely honest. Yeah. I actually started cutting at a young age. And so then what was socially acceptable was tattoos. I said the first thing I wanted to do was just feel the pain and just remind myself, hey, Raj, even though you're going through all this stuff, you're leaving, you're being ostracized, you're there, you're alive. And the ride fast was, so when I played college ball, I'm about 5'8", soaking wet. I'm about 5'8" in heels. So I played college ball and got a scholarship, and then I played a little bit of professional, and they called me a speed bump. They called me a speed bump because I never questioned myself. I went 120 miles an hour. And I realized I never got hurt because I was always going. And the thought process there on the verbiage is, You know, Andy, when you're on a bike and you're going really, really slowly, whoa. But if you're just peeling down, letting the bike go the way it wants, you can be hands off and just going. So I've always said to myself, you know, Raj, if you stop and you think too much and you stay cerebral, you might get hurt. So I'm like a bicycle. So when I was riding fast, I was free and I was on point and I was focused and I was going. So that was my very first one. And I still subscribe to those words at age 40.
Well, you know, Raj, the beauty of all of that and that story is, first of all, your self-knowledge. You can't be going by what other people are telling you should be right for you. You know how it works for you, your brain, your nature, etc. So I love your fierce commitment to your identity and your individuality. Studies show, and listeners, try this: have a full cup of coffee or tea or even water in a cup and walk and look where you're going. You will never spill a drop. But if you're watching the mug and you're watching the liquid in the cup, you will spill it. I think it's that theory, Raja. It's
that simple too, to be honest.
You are hyper focused. And one of my favorite stories from the startup days, and listeners, I had a podcast called The Startup Life Show for many years, was Vishnal. He went through medical school. He was in the ICU as urgent care medical doctor when all he kept hearing from these patients who were on their way out, many of them dying, how they wished they had pursued their dreams and done what they wanted to do, not what others wanted them to do or thought they should do. And he quit medicine.
You can't see the goosebumps because it's covered in tattoos, but like, and you just nailed it. Yeah. Regret is that thing.
And he's a great tech founder now. Weird. I'll connect the two of you. You can share that story, but it's the same thing. And so listeners, take heart and hear what Raja is sharing with this wonderful tattoo origin story. Put it out to the world. And you may recall in episode 8 when we were talking with Christian, who at the age of 18 had it, and he put respect right on the neck. And even the tattoo artist was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes, respect right here. Because respect for myself, and I command respect from others." So these are statements that get put out boldly. But Raja, I love that you said, okay, this is my line in the sand. This is how I be. Get over it. Mm-hmm. And now you've got some beautiful sleeves going on. But let's talk about first, how old were you when you got the Ride Fast?
Actually, Andy, it's funny enough, that wasn't my very first one.
Oh, do tell. You have another tattoo origin story. Okay.
I do. I was a little bit of a puppy, and I said, hey, I was playing some sports and got in a little bit of mischief with some friends. And on my thigh, I have a whale that is now just an amorphous blob, because it was just the prototypical Bic pen ink. So that was actually my very first one.
Your very first one.
But I think what was really also another big push for me was, it's exactly what you leaned into. It's pretty binary. So if you see this, you're going to go one way or the other pretty quick.
Right.
So at that point, it's almost a filter like, oh, I got to go. Okay.
Yeah. You don't want to be. Yeah. That's it. No problem. You're not my people.
That's cool.
That's great.
It's really saved me a lot of time and headache.
Absolutely. It's a great filtering device having that. But you're focused a lot on your hands and then on your sleeves. Mm-hmm. Do you have tattoos in other parts of your body as well?
I did. I'm head to toe. Yeah. I'm completely covered all the way down. And I think.
And you have leg sleeves as well?
I do.
Beautiful.
And I have actually two dynamics. It was a really interesting way I did it. One side's kind of traditional tatau, which is actually whalebone tapping.
Yeah, that's indigenous.
It is. And that one was brutal.
And did you go to the islands for that? Did you go somewhere for that? Or
I went somewhere, and the thought process there was, of course, to you and the listeners, traditional guns have, well, now they're very different, really interesting, but traditional tattoo guns, they basically have the rotary disc, like a hard drive, and pin. And so it's perfect. And the tatau, it's like they take the whalebone or they take the long needle irizumi, which I did as well, and they come in here and they tap, and they're like, well, you know what? That's not deep enough. Let's tap even harder. And you're like, okay, could you stop? So half of them are extremely raised, like it's almost scarred and keloided.
Oh, sure.
And the rest is soft. So it's a really interesting dichotomy. But how it traditionally started, I used to travel with my brother. My brother and I traveled the world, and we like to assimilate with the cultures because we just did kind of the quintessential childish backpacking, if I'm being
Well,
honest.
but you're Anthony Bourdain.
Andy, you nailed it. You nailed it. So his was beer and food, every street food and every local beer, he'd take the label. And mine was like, well, let me see if I can get a tattoo. So that was kind of my roadmap through life, was on my body.
Oh my gosh. And did you go to Samoa? Did you go to some of the other places too?
Vanuatu, we went all over. We were in Thailand, we were in India. We're traditionally from the Middle East. So we're from Lebanon, born and our family's from Lebanon and the Middle East. So we started traveling when we were months old.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So as far as giving a shout out to the tattoo artist, we're just going to say global shout out to the global tattoo artist that gave you either a whalebone type of piercing or actually used a formal needle to create the ink.
And I did have a young lady, and then she, if there's a traditional true shout out, it's to my young lady, Amanda Ellison at Ink Illusions here in Seattle. So Amanda at Ink Illusions, man, she has been my guru, if I'm being candid. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting when we come with an idea and she sees me.
Yeah.
She like really sees me, Andy. And at that point, she's like, I love this. Give me a day. Like, cool. And then it turns into like what I have. I don't even think. And I don't, I mean, honestly, I could walk in with my eyes closed and not even see it until the way out. I'd be totally kosher with it.
That is so important. And listeners, when you're working with an aligned tattoo artist, it is a moment of intimacy that you're sharing with them. They're really up close and personal with you. They are touching your body. They're with you in your space. You're in their space. So it really is this sort of team effort while you're there coping however you do with the pain. It's when you put your trust into someone like that. That's a real gift. Amanda, big shout out to you to be able to have that relationship with your clients who can get into your chair and feel like you get the vision of whatever that design is. That's their body. In your case, I'm thinking that your body says, I want this here. It's almost kind of a spiritual thing or something that happens, and you're adding that design to your body. Do you have any certain elements about the ink on your body that are meaningful, any specific design, or are you strictly tribal in the designs on your hands other than the knuckle tats?
A majority of it's tribal. It's one half. That's that dichotomy. One side's tribal, and the other one's actually kind of traditional Japanese. So, which I thought was interesting because actually, Andy, I never wanted color ever. So I'm black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, and then I walk out from Amanda and I have some red, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite. So it was a really interesting. And one of them really spoke out to me too, which I thought was interesting. She actually told me to go to another person. I said, well, okay. So I went to a young lady and she came in and she actually removed the needle from the gun. So she took the very, very small gauge needle. She removed it from the gun completely. And what she did is she dipped it and started going inside of my ear.
Oh my gosh.
It is a perfect wolf just in pointillism. And I was like, and when you see, when you see it up close, it is one of the best tattoos I've ever seen. It's never faded, and it maybe took 7 minutes. And I was like, what was this wizardry? It was really
seriously, because I'm going to pop you into full screen, listeners, so I can get a good gander at it. So turn your ear toward me again. Oh my gosh! And that only took 7 minutes. I would be like,
it was insane.
Was it really painful or?
I didn't feel it.
And what happens when you're covered in body art? What happens when you get into the chair? Do you go someplace? Do you look out a window? Do you watch avidly as Amanda or whomever is working on your art?
That is so interesting. I've never stopped and thought, but now that I have, I'm always reading a book.
Really?
That's, you know what? Andy, I've never even thought about that. I'm always reading a book.
Well, I'm going to be adding that to the category list of what people do when they're getting a tattoo.
I have no idea what it is.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's really, really therapeutic, of course, but very much like, hey, I'm just kind of doing my thing.
So let's talk about, given the dynamics of your family of origin, what happened? Because, I always say
about
and
that.
I think, and I was talking to the woman who actually designed Your Ink Story logo, everyone, that is hand drawn by a phenomenal artist.
Oh,
and
amazing.
she has tattoos, but I told her, I said, you're like the gift that keeps on giving to your family, because they were horrified, right? But it helped them process the fact that they needed to get a deeper understanding of humanity and life through her. How did your family respond?
That's so wild. That's so wild. So if we take half a step back, I went to like 5 high schools. As I mentioned, my sister, quintessential first child, young lady, brilliant, just worked her fingers to the bone. Brilliant physician. Second child, my brother, Doogie Howser, like savant.
Yeah, like
And there
15, he was
me.
ready to operate.
Yeah, literally. And then they're like, here's Raj. He's the same last name. He'll do it. And I'm like, huh? What? It was rough. It was really rough. And it was again, quintessential, hey, when you get a 98 on a test, where are those 2 points? So what it did is actually, I didn't feel seen. So I used to seek to be seen. And that usually wasn't the best thing for me. Yep. So I ended up going to quite a few different high schools.
Yeah. I'll give a fist bump with you, Raja. Yeah, I was definitely the scapegoat, black sheep of my family. And you're a dynamic personality. I'm a dynamic personality. So when people say, and you share with them, I was invisible in my family of origin, they look at you like, how could that possibly be?
Yeah.
But it's because of the filter they're using for the judgments and how they're viewing you by not being enough. And that's a horrible feeling, that you're not enough.
It is. And then you take it one step further, and I don't want to project onto your side, but the parents, they weren't slouches. They did very well. My dad was actually pretty high up at a hospital system. Wow. So we had a name. When you go to galas and stuff, and it's hanging out from the suit, and you're like, oh wait, what?
It's the Mawad Foundation.
Yeah.
Mawad
Foundation. Mawad's ended up, the Mawads ended up doing what they had to do in doctors Mawads.
Right. But also, I'm sure, as immigrants to this country, right, and as a result, not having the pure white skin of this European-based country, they worked even harder, having left their country of origin, I imagine, or maybe it was their parents who left.
No, they fled the war in 83. Yeah. And to be honest, Andy, they actually ended up in Texas.
Yeah.
So we're in the South. I was in Texas for 34 years, hence that. But
okay, what did you just point to, Raja?
That's the state of Texas.
The state of Texas is on his left eye coming down. Oh my gosh, I love that. You brave man putting one on your face.
And that was interesting. I mean, I have some neck ones, and I have some neck ones, but nobody would do it. Even Amanda, and bless her, I had not gotten the neck ones yet. And she goes, Raja, I love you. I've done your hands. She goes, just think. And I didn't. I did not with Amanda. So, I respect that. I respect that quite a bit. So it wasn't some willy-nilly thing. But when my parents came, they were definitely the wrong shade of melanin down in Texas.
Down in Texas. They had
to work 5 times as hard.
Of course.
Yeah.
I also want to say thank you so much for your transparency. And this is the beauty of talking about Ink Stories, listeners, is that the stories behind the body art are powerful, but they're also human. It's part of our human journey. It's what connects us as humans, that we are all struggling with something as part of our growth. And it's going to come out in different ways. But we're here to help each other on this journey and to have the conversations and be empathetic, because my dark day is a dark day. It may not be the same kind of dark day that Raj is having, but I know darkness. He knows darkness, so we can hold each other's hand in the dark and know how to get through it. That's what empathy is all about.
I wish we could plaster this picture of me and you with that message across the board. I really do. I'll leave that one there.
Okay. And I love that you did your full body. We had Dr. J, a tall black man who was episode 6. He's a professor. He's a PhD. First one to get the Dean's Circle as a man of color at Northeastern University in Boston.
Oh, nice.
And teaches at a predominantly white school where a lot of Hollywood elites send their kids, Emerson College. And he's about showing up in all his glory on the first day of school in his short sleeve shirt, and shorts. So everybody can get it out of the way. And it was the same thing too, this invisible feeling like, no, I'm out here as a bold, beautiful Black man.
Yep.
And I've got these incredible tattoos. And you know that when you have more melatonin in your skin, getting the art that you have on your body becomes even more of a talent. So
Yep.
Amanda is doing such a great job to create the beautiful art. Did you go right into your sleeves, Raja, or on your arms, or did you go legs? Like, take us a little bit on the journey of how everything got, because your whole chest, your back too?
Yep.
Yep.
And
your hands.
Before I get there, I did want to say one thing, because I think we were introduced by a mutual friend who's a brilliant young lady. To speak to Dr. J, it's not, obviously it's mutually exclusive, but it's not a stretch that I have a master's in economics, econometrics, applied math, I'm a CFA, and I can do synthetic derivatives in my head.
Yeah. So. You're no slouch, Raja.
Well, I'm just saying.
I think we all got that the minute you started talking. Yeah.
So I started on the hands. Yeah, I actually worked backwards. I really started the fingers and just started working up.
Working back up the arm.
I was like, no.
I love that.
First, I had like these two shovels of just tattoo hands.
Right. Yeah. And what do you have on the back of your hands? What's the meaning? Because again, that's something people are going to see right away.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. It's not. First, the state of Texas. So it's Texas, but with a Samoan feel.
Yep.
And then this one is actually Samson.
Ooh, that is so powerful. It's the face with all the hair. Seriously, it's gorgeous.
Exactly. So I believed in the vow of the Nazarite for a long time, and it actually came from a negative. It was an interesting dynamic of, I didn't feel seen. So Samson, he wanted to go out in glory. That's unfortunately where I was for a long time. I said, I'm gonna make an exit, and then it turned into more of the vow of the Nazarite of abstaining from alcohol, and you know, it's interesting how they genuflect and switch.
And I'm so glad you did the work so that you could continue to bring your gifts and your brilliance to the world, because we need you. The world needs you. But I get the struggle. Being human, it's a tough job. And finding ways to do the hard things about being human is not easy, especially in certain cultures. And so I'm really grateful that you found outlets, you got ways to express your brilliance that is right for who you be in the world, and that you are in alignment with your brilliance. And also you've been able to prove success in certain ways. But now I feel that your compass is even stronger, that internal compass for you, Raja, that you are
never been stronger.
Yeah. And the health and wellness part, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just physical. I'm sure there's the mental component. Yes.
So the SaaS solution, funny enough, it keeps an LTV and sticking to healthy habits by 3x multiple, because we built out kind of what you're saying. You need to find your people, your tribe, your community. Yeah. So imagine the Myers-Briggs for your personal training. So we match you on personalities.
Thank goodness. And I wish more employers did that too.
Early education, everything, Andy, everything.
It just makes life easier. This is wonderful. Our guest on episode 12, Eliza Foltz, she works at a company because she was an addict for 15 years. And that's not easy to come out after a 15-year-long addiction. But the company she's working with, it's like a Fitbit on the wrist, but it helps people understand when they might be slipping. That's so awesome. Before they fall.
That's so cool.
Isn't that great? So the signals are out, and then the team, the people that you have, your wise counsel, so to speak, can go and say, hey, looks like you're challenged and we want to catch you now versus when it's too late. And that's the beauty of what you're doing in aligning people so that they will end up sticking with the health and the wellness. If you're in alignment with the right people, you're going to then implement it instead of feeling left out and like you don't belong. So Raja, what do you have going on the neck? Are those quotes?
Yeah. One of them is actually my two kids' names.
Oh.
And then, and my kids' names. And then a quote that's kind of hard to read, but about rent being due every day. And it's life rent. So there's get up and go to work.
Absolutely. And listen to the drive that you have and the ambition you have. It's okay for whatever lane you're choosing to show up with that. Oh, I love that. And so what does the future look like for tattoos? Do you have plans for more, or what's happening there?
I'll leave you on this one, Andy. I used to love how they made me feel.
Yep.
I can't lie. Now that I've gotten a little bit better here, I've gotten a little bit better here. They almost hurt now.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds.
No, I understand completely. You've done the work. And so as you've gotten more compassionate and more loving toward yourself and more understanding of the wounds from the childhood gateway, you've done the work, and now you're finding a greater peace, and there's different outlets for you. Thank you for sharing this journey with us, and for your honesty and your candidness as you have walked through life and have it shown up on your body in such beautiful, beautiful art. Seriously, to Amanda and to everybody who's touched your body, huge round of applause and gratitude for that level of beauty. But also, it's a great conversation starter. And it also, as you said, a tremendous filter. So if people are going to look at you and they cringe, you go, wonderful, move along.
Bye.
I'm like that with me. I'm anti-licious. If you've got a problem with that, see you, bye. So listeners, be sure to follow Your Ink Story on Instagram. I know Raj is going to share a few images with us so that we can see some of his beautiful body ink. And thank you, Raja, for sharing your beautiful ink stories with us. I'm so grateful for your inspiration and your insights about the art of tattoos and the beautiful heart behind your tattoos and the journey that you went on as you became more self-aware and more bonded to your true human journey here. You've helped us connect more deeply with each other through your ink stories. Thank you for joining me.
And thank you for the platform, Andy, truly.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Ink Story. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you are tuning in. And if this episode inspired you, please share it so we can all feel more connected through our common humanity and lived experiences. If you or someone you know would like to share a meaningful ink story on the podcast, please send me an email, andy@yourinkstory.com, along with a brief description. Feel free to share your thoughts about this episode via a voicemail message by visiting yourinkstory.com. And when you get to the website, just tap the podcast mic icon located in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and leave your message. Until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers.